Hi and welcome to Teardrop. My name is Beth. Boy, do we have a jam-packed video today. The first thing we're doing here is we're getting the inserts ready. You can see I've made some already, but I wanted to show you what I'm doing. And I'm taking, I guess they're the medium size crescent moons. And I am filling them with UV resin in a combination of glow powder. I just like the texture of it. I like the way it feels. It holds color well. So then after I do the curing of it, I am going to be adding resin to it, and then we're going to be adding our color to it. We're using the Let's Resin Chrome powder. This one's light blue, the other one will be royal blue. Just wait till you see what it looks like after they're all colored up. Now we're gonna put some resin on these and cure them and get them ready to go inside the piece. Now that we've finished with putting the resin on top and curing it on there and getting them ready to be put into the mold, we are taking both of those moons and putting one inside of each other, facing each other. You can see how I've done it. It's kind of like the yin-yang symbol. And then I'm gonna put resin all on the top of it and on the inside. It not only holds the two pieces together, it helps them stick to the mold. So as we lay our wire down, it'll make it easier. So we cured it in, and then we're going to straighten our wire and get it processed to be able to use it within this piece. We are going to do that zigzag type of effect and keep it as flat as possible because you're going to need your pieces to be pretty straight for this piece. So you go back and forth. It's very simple to do. It's just getting a pattern going. It's just getting your hands going in the right direction, and once you figure it out, you got it. Now we're going to start cutting pieces off and inserting them. Well, you measure it from the insert to the edge, and you can have it up against the mold if you want, but I prefer not to because I don't like scratching my molds. And when you're cutting these to fit, make sure if you have to cut a significant amount off that you do it from both sides. Otherwise, you're going to lose the pattern. And what I'm doing now is I want to do the 4 quadrants so that I have an idea of how many pieces I'm going to be able to fit in between each one. And in this piece, the framework is pretty tight together. There's a lot of pieces of wire involved in this, a lot of small pieces, but it's so worth it. And you're just gonna cut the ends like I'm doing here, and so that it will fit in gently, because otherwise you will scratch your mold. You do have to be careful of that. And then I'm gonna take some resin and dip those pieces in it. And what's gonna happen is it'll cure those pieces into place, and they're not gonna be all fiddly and moving all over the place on you. And doing that also helps being able to have an idea of where each piece is going to go. So you just kind of attach each piece within there and start working in between each one, and you can pretty well look at it and say, okay, I can fit 2 pieces of wire here or 1 piece of wire there. And you build on that, and you try and keep them pretty evenly spaced. But it's okay, they're bent, and so they're going to be a little bit uneven spaced. And you'll notice that even the central piece that I put in there is not centered. I like things a little callawonky. What can I say? I'm a little callawonky. I do. I like things a little off-center. It gives it character. It gives it life. Life is not perfect, and neither is our art most of the time. It's always those happy accidents. So enjoy this part, and I will interject in areas that I need to, but I think by seeing the first half of what we're doing here and seeing how we're just putting pieces in and cutting them to according to size, and measuring and recutting when necessary, and just taking resin and curing them in so they stay, and you're going to watch it just come together. It just has a life of its own. So enjoy this part, and I will be back when it's time to put more resin in. Now that we're done with the framework, we're going to add our resin, and we got to make sure that we get rid of any bubbles. And then we will cure it, add a little bit more resin, and cure it again. I use a paintbrush a lot of the times to be able to really get in there, and then my lighter. Now we're filling the center. Make sure you get rid of the bubbles in there too. And now we're going to use metal leaf on this and let that dry, and then put some of the chrome blue in there. I love those colors. That color is just so amazing. Now we're going to do the same thing with the metal leaf adhesive and do it on the outside where the actual framework is. And we're going to be using Chameleon flakes. I am actually using Baltic Day for the first time. I've never used their stuff. I am still using a Let's Resin brown yellow. It's one of my favorite, but I'm using Baltic Day red, pink, and blue green. And I was so amazed at how intense they really were. And this is the red pink that I'm using here. The first color I used was the brown yellow. But this is the red pink by Baltic Day, and then the next one is the blue green, and I was so surprised how bright that green came out. It's a little bit harsher than that blue on the other piece that I made. I was expecting it to be more like that. Surprise! But that's okay, it's beautiful. I still love it. Now we're going to burnish in the flakes. I love how shiny it looks. And we're going to be putting quite a few layers of resin on here. And we're going to cure it in and do another layer and cure it in. And then we will put a back on it. Now that it's cured, we're going to put the black on the back. This time I am using the black UV gel. I have been using the mica powder for a while, and I really like it because it comes out really smooth. And I've noticed that with the UV gel polish, it's a little bit bumpy. And you have to put a good coat of resin on it to make it smooth. But it works. And I don't want to waste it, and so I'm using it. And wait till you see this piece when it comes alive with resin. Oh my gosh, it's just amazing. Look at the colors. They're just like glowing. I love the reds, that orangey red from the Baltic Day collection. Just beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. Look at that. And now we're going to get going on that embellishing. It is so much fun to do it, but first we're going to put the bale on, or split ring. I do this backwards. I said this in my last video. People are probably trying to figure out how I'm doing this and what I'm doing. All I do is just put a little resin on the split ring and cure it through the mold, because my mold is clear. Then, once it's in place, I know it's in the exact spot that I want it, and it doesn't move. And it's a little handle as I'm doing things. Sometimes I need to be able to move the piece without holding onto it. And so that just helps. You can pick it up with pliers and move it and work it. So now that that part is done, we are going to go and start embellishing the front with some ball chain. And the ball chain is so much easier to use than the regular chain is. The regular chain just bunches up and may not lay nice. It works great with straight things, but not curved. Anyway, I love doing this, and I love watching how it just brings things to life. It gives depth, it gives texture to the piece. And I'm sure you've heard me say this before. Most of my pieces have texture to them. They are not smooth like a lot of resin pieces are. But they don't have to be. There is no rule that says that they have to be. That is just the way it was done. the cool thing about UV resin is you can break the rules because it's a totally different medium than a lot of other two-part epoxies because you can cure as you go along. It's just a really amazing thing that you can do. What other medium besides glue can you do something as you go? With UV resin, you cure as you go. And that's why you can do so many things. You got to think outside the box. Well, we're going to continue putting these beads on, or this chain on. And you saw how I did the first section. So I'm going to let you watch the second part, how I do it. And you're going to see me adding resin. By doing that, it helps hold the beads away from the brush. Otherwise, the brush will attract the beads and it becomes really fiddly. So enjoy this part, and I will be back when we're ready to move on. Now that we are done with the ball chain, we're going to add some flowers to the middle. These are Queen Anne lace. They're just these little round groups of flowers, and I cut them up in, quarters, thirds, whatever it is, the size that I need. Or I singly cut the flowered petals off. So you just cut them up to the size that you desire, and you just start filling it in. I like to put a lot of flowers on. I just think they're really, really pretty, and I think they really add to a piece. Yes, it can be overdone, and I've done that many times, and there has been many, many pieces I have tossed because of overdoing it. But this is the only place that we are going to be putting flowers, so it's not like we're going to take over the piece. Then once I get them cured in, I take Caviar beads, and these are the smallest ones. They're probably a little less than 1 millimeter. And I put them in the flowers as if it was the middle of the flower, and that's what it looks like. It's really pretty. And now we're going to fill up the little areas where the moons are, make it domed. And I put probably 2-3 layers minimum of resin. It just really depends on how domed you want it. I liked them pretty domed. It gave more depth to the piece. So I just keep building it up. And it is a slow process because you have to do one layer at a time. But eventually you get to the height that you want, and it's amazing how high you can dome this. Get to the height that you want, and then you just start putting resin all over the piece. Oh my God, look at that thing. It is absolutely gorgeous. I had so much fun making it. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I know I did. There they are, absolutely beautiful. There's the original. Please like and subscribe. Thanks. See you soon.